people getting involved with bat
Mm,
groups.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it depends what people are interested in. I mean, sometimes people will just have an interest in bats and look on the Bat Conservation Trust website and
Oh,
find there's
right.
a list of their local bat groups there. Um, Occasionally, people find they've got bats in their houses and want to know more about it,
Hmm.
and will come and talk to the local bat group. Or where we are in Bangor, there's a university that has students that are always interested in doing projects. So we
Oh,
get
nice.
quite a few students who want to come along and learn more
Oh,
about
that's great.
bats. Um, yeah, so there's a variety of different ways, really, depending what people's interest is. Um, and as I said, all the back groups are different, so they focus on different
Right.
things. There are some that are very much research based and will have programs of doing monitoring bat boxes that they'll
Oh,
regularly
okay.
do, and get lots of interesting data from that. And it varies with people's interests as well, and
Mhm.
time. I think before the pandemic, we did more. We used to meet up as a group once a month,
Oh,
and then we obviously had to stop doing that during lockdowns, and we
yeah.
went on to Zoom. But we haven't really got back to the having the meetings in the same way.
Oh,
It's yeah. We sort of lost some momentum a bit. I think in
yeah.
common with other
I know a
groups as
lot of
well.
people did.
Mm. Yeah, so trying to get back to doing more of that.
Nice.
The sort of projects we're looking at. One of the things that we're particularly interested in is a species called the Nethusius pipistrelle, which is the same size, well, it's just slightly bigger than the other pipistrelles, which are only wee little bats.
Yeah.
And but these ones are migrate long distances, and
Oh,
there are bats that have been ringed on the southeast coast of England.
oh,
I think the longest distance one turned up in Russia, where it
oh,
was
my
sadly
goodness.
caught by a cat,
Oh,
which is how they found it. But there is very long distance migrations that go on with
wow.
that species, and it's a species that we've just found odd individuals in North Wales.
Huh.
We've never found any roosts of them, but they are known to breed in Ireland.
Oh,
So we don't know whether they come across Wales on their way to Ireland,
mm-hmm.
or what happens really.
Huh.
So that's one species that we're trying to do some focused work on, and
Nice.
has involved they tend to feed over water and big lakes. They are drawn to big lakes and watercourses. So we have set up some bat detectors that can be left for weeks at a time and
Okay.
recording, and then analyse the data to see if we're picking up any of these Nethusius pipistrelles. And
Huh.
occasionally we have done, and then when we've done that, we've got a group of people out appropriately licensed
Yeah.
and experienced, and we put up harp traps to try and catch
Oh,
them in.
okay.
And it's very appropriate for Wales that we use harp traps because that's our national instrument as well. But
Oh, yeah. Can
the
you
harp,
explain what those are for people that aren't familiar with
yeah,
those?
I mean, it's very much like a harp in that it's a lot of strings, sort of strings that come down, and
Oh,
they're
okay.
but finer than string. They're sort of very nylon thread,
Hmm.
um, and at the bottom of it is a frame with a pocket, a long pocket like that,
Okay.
and the bats will fly into the string because they don't see them. This is a
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah.
Slide down, end up in the pocket, and then
Okay.
it's got an overlap, so they can't climb out easily.
Hmm.
What happens sometimes is the bats will get very close to the strings and then back off and fly a different way, but
Yeah.
enough of them get caught in them for it to be worth doing.
Yeah.
So that's how we're trying to catch the Nethusius pipistrelle, and so far we've caught one,
Oh,
which we
wow.
were very pleased about.
Good, good. It
So
just
the
shows how rare they are and how important and exciting it is then.
yeah. So that's something that we're intending to do more of that work.
Very cool.
And then ideally we'd have somebody who's licensed to put a ring on the bat, and then if he gets caught somewhere else, we'll know where it came from.
Mhm. Okay. How did you first get interested in bats? It seems like you've been doing this for quite a while. What kind of sparked your interest?
I think I've always found bats fascinating. I mean, I love animals and there's of all sorts, but there's just something about bats, and I think it's partly that they're very difficult to learn about. You know, you
Yeah.
can't just go out in the daylight with your binoculars and see them.
Yeah.
You have to be out at night, which is always more interesting. There's lots of other things that you don't see any other
Yeah.
time of the day or night, and they live in interesting places. I mean, those are the sorts of things that kind of got me hooked on them, I think. And I joined a bat group in when it was the International Year of the Bat in 19, no, well, the National Year of the Bat in 1986,
Oh.
when I lived down in southwest England.
Oh, wow.
And I joined the Avon Bat Group, and
Okay.
they did some visits that I joined in with, and then and had lectures and discussions and things. And then I moved up to North Wales. So the first thing I looked for was the local bat group.
Ah,
And bat people are nice people. So you know if you join
definitely.
a bat group, you're going to join a group of nice people, and
Yeah.
they're all maybe slightly odd, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I joined the bat group here and started going out doing the hibernation surveys, which is when you're
Oh.
going underground into mines. Usually in this
Oh,
area,
wow.
we
Yeah.
don't have very many caves, but we go looking for hibernating bats. Again, you
Okay.
have to have a license to do
Mhm.
that, and you're just careful not to disturb them.
Mhm.
And after I'd been doing that a little while, I came up here with my partner who was doing a forestry degree, and I didn't have a job. And then a job came up with um, it was called the Nature Conservancy Council then,
Oh.
and the job was advising people who had problems with bats.
Oh.
And I didn't have a great deal of experience, but I was training, so
Mhm.
I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So I started doing this job, and it was a summer job, because that's when most of the bat problems happened.
Mhm.
And then they managed to keep the job going year round. And I was dealing with other protected species as well, so newts and badgers particularly.
Oh, wow.
So the whole range of things, not birds. They had somebody else doing so did the reptiles and amphibians
Oh,
and the
man.
mammals.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, yeah, and in North Wales, which is just a wonderful area. It's just I just got to travel around, yeah, really spectacular places, mountains and valleys, and yeah, it's just wonderful. So
Nice.
I did that for a few years on and off. It was very on and off because I was on short-term contracts and I never knew
Oh.
how long they were going to last. But I could stick at it, so I was okay. And eventually they gave me a permanent job. And after doing that for a few years, I changed jobs and worked in the headquarters, being um, mammal ecologist for
Oh, okay.
Wales, dealing with bats and riparian mammals. So that was my specialism. So I wasn't going out and meeting the public so much. It was more giving writing advice and guidance and
Right.
commissioning research. And I was lucky enough also then to join the Eurobats Advisory Committee as well.
And
So
that's a really interesting organization too. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, it's called Eurobats because it started off with just European nations, and it's part of the a treaty under the IUCN, under the Berne Convention, which is
Oh, wow.
the Bonn Convention, which
Mhm.
is Convention of Migratory Species, and
Okay.
it's on understanding that bats in Europe migrate across borders. So if you have legislation and protection in one country, then you need to have it in the other countries to make
Right.
sure that the bats are protected throughout their range.
Mhm.
And it was also because it was recognised that bats are special and need protection because they don't breed quickly enough to recover the numbers if anything happens to them, and there are
Right.
lots of man-made threats that are affecting their conservation. So
Yeah.
that's the sort of background, and it's grown really now because it includes some of the North African countries and some of the Middle Eastern
Oh,
countries
wow.
because that's where the bats migrate to as well,
Right.
and
Right.
the same species can be found throughout the area.
That's incredible.
So what it does is it's quite a sort of, as an institution, it's quite formal, and the language it uses is quite formal. But basically, it's a lot of bat people, researchers, NGOs as well. So there's the Bat Conservation Trust goes as a non-voting member because it's the government bodies that are the voting members, and they'll write resolutions which bind their member countries to doing what they've said they'll do.
Mhm.
Because the governments don't always want to be restricted by what the biologists and conservationists
Yeah.
want them to do. The language is usually in that it will urge them to do something, and it's things like
Yeah.
that. But it's a really good. It brings together people who are doing all the research and the best practice, and they'll produce documents. I was responsible for one which came out last year, which is about the
Oh.
effect of traffic infrastructure on bats.
Oh.
So that's something that has been a problem only relatively recently acknowledged. So there's lots of the research is summarised in that, but there's more research happening all the time. So I'm sure it's out of date already.
Wow. Could you give us a little overview of what that would be as far as what the problem would involve with traffic and bats?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing with the infrastructure is that you're taking away habitat by building a road, and it's not just
Right.
the tarmac that you build a road on; it's the bits at the edge of it and all the lighting. The lighting is a really big issue,
Yeah. Yeah.
and particularly if you're creating new routes through habitat that's really pristine, such as forest
Yeah.
or wetlands, then the bats don't know that there's a road there, and quite often low-flying species fly
Oh.
very at the same sort of height as the vehicles, so
Yeah.
will actually get killed by vehicles. But it's that's one aspect. There's also because of the lighting and the noise, some of the bats won't go as near to the road as they would have done, so they're losing their
Right.
habitat there, and they may stop using a feeding area that they used to go to.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
it can be quite a wide range of
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
effects.
Wow. And actually, now that you mentioned the lighting issue, I kind of stumbled upon it looks like Wales has a lot of good dark sky initiatives
It
and dark
does, yeah,
sky parks, and that's
yeah,
not something that is real big here in the United States. Some of the
yeah,
national parks have that, and every once in a while, a neighborhood or a village will spring up with that. But since that's not something that's real widespread in other countries, could you tell us a little bit about dark sky programs?
yeah. I mean, I don't know a huge amount about them, but I know it's recognizing that the sky as a unlit sky is important for people as well as for nature,
Yeah,
and making sure that it is maintained as a habitat in its own right
yeah,
that people can appreciate and ideally not pollute with light.
yeah,
And I think the fact that in Wales we have these big mountain ranges where you can't build too much, so you have
correct.
a natural area that's restricted from development,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and it's celebrating those and encouraging people to make the most of those as well.
Mhm. Nice, nice. I was just so impressed with that that was actually part of the tourism around Wales that
Yeah.
I stumbled across. That they really promote the dark sky initiatives, and that it's just such a nice thing when you're, focused on nocturnal animals like bats. It's so exciting to see something like that. So you mentioned quite a few different species of bats. What's your favorite bat?
I think if I had to pick one, I think it would be the lesser horseshoe bat,
Oh, okay.
because that's
Huh.
the one that I've spent a lot of time working with. And it is another tiny little bat. It's about the size of the pipistrelle, one of the smallest bats that we have in this country. We
Yeah.
also have a greater horseshoe bat as well, which is
Oh, right.
noticeably bigger. But the lesser horseshoe bat, when I first started doing this job, and also when I first started moving to this area, there were known to be a few records of them on Anglesey,
Oh,
but nobody had found any recently. So I was
oh,
determined to find some, and I did. So I was very pleased. Um,
nice.
and when I was looking at, we were trying to monitor the numbers of them by counting them at their roost sites, and they're both the horseshoes. They're a different bat group to the Vesper bats,
Okay,
which the Vesper bats tend to roost in crevices and tuck
right.
themselves away, and you don't often see them in a roost.
Hmm.
Whereas the horseshoe bats, they have quite long back legs, and they always
Oh,
hang upside down and wrap their wings around them, which is what but people always think bats do, but most bats don't actually do that of the insectivorous ones, but the horseshoe bats do. So you see these little tiny things, sort of that sort of size, just hanging down with those little wings wrapped around it, and they're just
ah,
perfect little things. But they also, because of this habit of having the difficulty in crawling with their long back legs, they have to fly in through quite a big entrance. I mean, they will
oh,
sometimes go through something you think, I don't know how it did that. The only way it could have done it was by tucking its wings in and going for it. But
wow.
most of the time, they can fly into places with big entrances. So we tend to find them in old barns
Huh.
and stables, sort of coach houses of big old country houses.
Oh, right.
And after realising this, I'm looking at the distribution maps. I realised that the old estates that had the big estate houses was where we have often tended to find the colonies, and
Okay,
that's partly because they're a woodland specialist. They like to forage in very dense woodland,
okay.
and they're amazingly manoeuvrable. They can
Wow.
fly amongst branches. And when I was looking at the maps and looking for them and realizing that they're associated with these old country houses, because that's where a lot of the woodland is, the old broadleaf woodland. And I sort of named them the aristocrats of the bat world because they like living in these big old houses. So it's great places to go and look for them as well.
Nice. Oh, that's
But
very cool.
they're quite curious. They they're not a species that you get as a rehab bat very often because they're
Oh,
very nervous, and they, if anything happens to them, they just, like some animals will stress when they handle the horseshoe bats. The lesser horseshoes don't do well in captivity, and they don't
ah,
survive. So we don't see them very often in that context.
mm,
But we have a lot of the roosts around here, and they're the main species that we look for in the hibernation sites because they specialise in hibernating underground, and they need somewhere that's fairly humid because of their wings are exposed.
oh,
With the If you took yourself away in a damp crevice, you don't need such a high humidity. But if you're out in the open, then you need a high humidity level.
hmm,
So we find them in the old mines that we go searching for.
wow, very cool. Well, since bat groups are just such an amazing, abundant thing in the UK, how should people get in touch if they want to specifically get involved with your bat group?
Have a look on our website, and
Okay,
yeah, we will have
okay,
there's details on there.
okay,
We've we haven't, as I say, we've not been doing as much the last year as I would have liked us to do. We've been doing some of the monitoring programs, but I'm hoping that we'll be more active next next
okay,
summer.
nice, nice. And I'll put that link in the post too if you're in North
Yeah,
Wales and want to get involved. And I know on the Bat Conservation Trust website, there are bat groups also from England and Scotland. They've got
yeah.
them listed from all over the UK. So if you're in the UK, check that out. Um, well, it's been really great talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, till next time, happy Halloween
Happy Halloween. It's been
and
great
happy
to
Hall.
meet you.
It was nice to meet you too, and happy Halloween to everyone out there. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.